Welcome back, everybody, to the PGA DFS Pick Show. I'm your host, John McNutt. You can find me on socials at JohnCool19, here for Fantasy Sports Insight, talking DraftKings Daily Fantasy for the PGA Championship. Fun to be back for another major. I love the PGA Championship, how it sets up as a very difficult track every single year at a different course. I love this event a lot. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Valhalla Golf Club is new for the last few years here on tour. They previously have played here a couple times. Only a handful of golfers were in the field at either of those events. Tiger did win this in 2020, and the last time it was played here, Rory McIlroy did win. So there are some golfers, obviously those two in the field this week, but really as far as this field goes, it's limited. So, but let's jump in here. 7,600 yard. This is a beast of a course. Only a par 71 bent grass greens. You're looking at very, very long course. Lots of driver off the tee, as well as long approach shots and some very, very thick, long rough. If you've watched any of the videos, that is common for PGA Championship courses, but especially this week, it is very long, very thick. You want to be in the fairway as much as possible. Looking at my key stats, approach is my number one stat this week. It really is kind of a second shot course. It is a Jack Nicklaus design, and he is always trying to make golfers play target golf, especially with that second shot. Very small greens as well. So golfers being able to find that green in regulation should be really low this week. So I'm looking at approach, so who's given themselves opportunities to make a couple birdies on the week. Also looking at total driving, you definitely want to be long off the tee this week if you can. I think it caters to golfers who will not have to make the 200 plus yard approach shots, but much more comfortably in the 175 to 200 range. If you can do that more consistently this week, a lot better chance at winning. And then fairways gained, again, that rough, very long. So approach and driving, obviously ball striking every week important, but especially this week. I'm including scrambling very high in my modeling as well. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of missed fairways this week, as well as just missed greens with the small greens. So I am expecting scrambling, the best scramblers this week to move themselves up the leaderboard. It isn't necessarily about making the most birdies, but also avoiding as many bogeys as possible on a difficult track. And then I'm including shots gained at majors into my modeling pretty heavily. Obviously, no course history, or at least ignoring the course history this week. So some other proximities, some other kind of peripheral stats I'm looking at: bogey avoidance on difficult courses, as well as birdie or better on difficult. And you can certainly include around the greens also. There's going to be a ton of missed greens, so who can get up and down save par the most this week. And then par 5 scoring, I think those are some of the few holes with opportunities. There are only 3 of them, and they are certainly all gettable in 2 shots for some of the longer hitters out there. That would be a huge advantage over the shorter hitters this week. So par 5 scoring you can include in the stats also. That's about it for that. If my favorite golfers this week, right at the top, Scotty Scheffler. There's not much you can say about him. He is just playing on another level right now. He's finished outside the top 10 just once since August of last year. He's won 4 out of his last 5 events, and that one that he didn't win, yeah, he was runner-up. So he's only lost to one golfer in his last 5 events. If you look at majors as well, he's been crushing. His last 10: win, 23rd, 3rd, 2nd, 10th, 21st, 2nd, another win, 8th and 7th. Just a ton of work here for Scotty Scheffler playing in majors. Another thing to note, he did just have a baby in the last week, so we'd love to talk about it in Fantasy World here. Does he have some baby swag going on? I certainly hope so. I will be playing a lot of Scotty Scheffler. Modeling, it doesn't matter what your model looks like, you likely have Scotty Scheffler number one. He's been crushing in almost all categories over the last 6 months, year, or even if you go short term, he's absolutely been the best. But number one in my model, when it comes to avoiding bogeys, and number 2 in my model when it comes to making birdies on long, difficult courses. Not much more to say beyond that. But he's number 1 in approach and also on par 5 scoring. So you can point to just about any stat and find your way to Scotty Scheffler at the top. Another golfer I really like this week, that's Tommy Fleetwood. I don't play him a ton on DraftKings, but I'm definitely going there this week. 8,700. He's at 50 to 1 outright to win. The form is fine here in 2020. He's got one missed cut, he's got one win, and three top 10 finishes across both the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour. That's in just 10 events. So three top 10s, that's fair. And he got that win as well. I know he hasn't won on the PGA Tour. That win is coming eventually here. Tommy's been very good in the majors over his last four majors, 3rd, 10th, 5th, and 18th. I like that a lot. He has struggled with his irons a bit over the last month or so, but he did gain on approach last week at the Wells Fargo. He finished at T13, so I think a little bit of form for him coming in. And then in my model, he's 5th in fairways gained, 4th in scrambling, 3rd around the greens, and he is top 10 birdie or better on those long, hard courses. He also rates out really well on hard par fours. We're going to see a lot of those this week. So I think Tommy Fleetwood is an excellent option as your second man in. If you want Scotty and Tommy, I would be just fine with that this week. So let's jump over to some values and some pivots that I really like. Starting with Siwoo Kim, he seems a little bit maybe mispriced to me. He's 7,700, 75 to 1 outright to win. I think he should be just a little higher, maybe just over that 8K range. His last missed cut was in October of last year. He's got 9 top 25 finishes over his last 13 events. And as far as major history goes, it's not great. I understand he only has one top 20 finish over his last 10, but I think he's just been playing really, really good golf here in 2024. I think he kind of turns it around and certainly could pay off with a top 20 finish this week. He's been gaining about 4.5 strokes tee to green on the field over his last 20 events. That's just a ton of strokes week in and week out. I understand the putter is his weakness, but bent grass here is his best surface for putting. So I think maybe he can put it together with those two, tee to green and putting this week. As far as my model goes, he's 2nd recent approach, 2nd fairways gain, and 10th around the greens. And again, on those long, hard courses, he's top 25 making birdies and top 25 avoiding bogeys. I think look his way as a great cash option in the 7K range. Now over to some pivots. Actually, before that, a value guy I really do like that is not on the slide here, and that's Denny McCarthy. He's only 6,300 on DraftKings this week. He's 4 out of 4 made cuts at PGA championships. He's made 3 out of 4 at his US Open appearances, and he just has one missed cut on tour since August of last year. So in the last 2 years, he does rank 9th on those long and hard courses. I think pricing wise, with the odds, he should be more like 7,200. So he's like $900 mispriced on DraftKings. I think you'll look his way, certainly in some GPPs and maybe even cash to be able to fill in all the guys you want near the top. So Denny McCarthy, certainly look his way as a value. But some low-owned pivots that I am favoring this week, starting with Will Zalatoris. He's a favorite at Fantasy Sports Insight. We talk about him a ton in the chat. He's 9,100 on Fantasy National. He is listed as only 7% projected ownership this week. And I get it. He hasn't really been good in 4 out of his last 5 events. But looking at his kind of history here, he's played 2 PGA championships. He finished 8th and 2nd. He's had 4 US Opens, and since he turned pro, 3 of those were top 6 finishes, and he's been at the Masters 3 times, all 3 of those top 10 finishes. This range in pricing on DraftKings is it's gonna get. I think it's going to go under owned. I think of a couple other guys around him also are going to be lower ownership because the guys right above him are going to suck up so much. That's like Cam Young and Wyndham Clark, Neiman. All those guys are looking to be projected up quite a bit more ownership than Will Zalatoris. So look his way as a pivot option if you started off a little bit chalky with maybe Scotty Scheffler and maybe even Tommy Fleetwood. I think getting Will Zalatoris in, that would be a great top 3 with Will Zalatoris providing you some leverage on the field. One more guy I really like here. He's a bit expensive this week, probably more than I would have expected by at least a few hundred, and that's Colin Morikawa. His ownership on Fantasy National under 9% projected right now. He hasn't had the best 2024, but he has been playing better the last few weeks. He's 3rd, 9th, and 16th his last 3 events. great history at the PGA Championship. Obviously, he has a win and the U.S. Open and U.S. Open and Masters. Plus, he won at the Open Championship. I think really good major form. He's overpriced, like I said, maybe $400. Mostly that is due, I think, to Brooks Koepka and Oberg getting so much ownership. Everyone has got a little bit of FOMO with those two. You do not want to miss out on playing them in fantasy because they could certainly pop off and win this event. But I think that it has Colin Morikawa's ownership dipped quite a bit. It's tough to play multiple guys over 10K, but certainly if you played Scotty Scheffler and one of those other two, you're going to be playing way down in the 5K, 6K with multiple golfers. So I think that leaves Colin Morikawa out because everyone would rather go play some of those others, like I said, Koepka or Aberg up top. One more thing to note this week, and that is here at Fantasy Sports Insight, we are running a special for the entire month of May. If you log on to our website, fsidfs.com, you can get a free month of PGA in our Discord. You need to use the code PGMAY, that's MAY, so PGMAY, all lowercase. That'll get you a free month on Fantasy Sports Insight for PGA DFS. Inside the Discord, I have core plays every Wednesday, weather, kind of a weather analysis if I'm doing any wave stacking, as well as looking at projected ownerships, and then a player pool as well. So certainly join us over there. Would love to have you. If you join now, you'll get that free month, and then you can kind of carry over into the middle of the summer. I think you might scoop up one more major in a handful of weeks at the U.S. Open. But either way, certainly join us. I'd love to have you. The best way to get in touch with us is through that website, the fsidfs.com, or you can certainly find us on X at FSI_DFS. And good luck this week.